We're back in session. Mr. City Clerk, let's go to item 26.
Yes, if everyone doesn't mind, take your conversations please out into the foyer. That'd be great. Item number 26. Item number 26 is a request by Deputy Mayor Lowry and Councilmember Kern for staff to begin planning for an electronic messaging sign for Civic Center Plaza, which would communicate community events, meeting schedules, and public safety messaging, and place an appropriate amount of funds in the upcoming capital improvement projects budget. Oh, and one point of clarification I did want to provide.
There was some confusion about the motion.
Yes, the last item that was voted on, the motion, just so I can clarify. Sorry. If I could please ask everyone to carry on with your conversations in the foyer, and also...
Can you please move outside? Thank you.
And someone left their cell phone. If you're missing a cell phone, you can tell me what number it is and everything. It's an iPhone. Come and find me up here. The motion from the last item, following the original motion by Councilmember Sanchez, the motion by Councilmember Kern was to have a workshop on June 20th, 2018 at 1 p.m. to discuss the 1,000-foot setback, the 1 unit per APN number, and to have a report from the Oceanside Police Department regarding dispensaries. It was a motion by Kern, second by Lowry, approved 3-2, Sanchez, Feller, no.
Thanks.
Right. Moving forward, item 26.
Is that clear for you? What? Yes, we'll do that. Okay.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Please, yes, that would still give us a quorum.
I don't need any more of
Okay,
this.
yeah, I understand. Well, we still have a regular meeting after that. So we are have an item to discuss that is something that I observed, that was a city staff person leaning a ladder up against a palm tree down here on the plaza, and climbing up the palm tree to change out the banners that were hanging there. And I realized that, first of all, leaning a ladder up against a palm tree and climbing up that ladder with your whatever your body weighs and trying to deal with these things that are up here, this is what we're talking about replacing, so that we don't have to put employees at risk hanging banners, which sometimes are tossed or single event banners, or some of them are reused. I've seen both. So we do want to keep the public informed, and I spoke with Councilmember Kern about that, about considering and directing staff to bring back a concept for what a display sign would, an electric display sign would look like, similar to the ones that are at some of the schools here in Oceanside. And I'm concerned about what that would cost and so forth, but we have put funds aside in the budget for this, but that's just a placeholder. As it is at this point, at this moment in time, realizing that there are people who don't understand the difference in a billboard and a sign. A billboard is 30 feet long and 18 feet high. That's a billboard. The thing we're talking about is 48 inches tall and 72 inches wide, no, 84 inches wide? 96, yeah. 48 by 96. Anyway, I am not going to support this item, but I would still like to have the council discuss it and take it from there.
Oh, okay.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Well, I think the Civic Center...
real quickly, we do have a public on this item. Should we have public now, or should we have our council discussion?
How many public?
Sorry. We have six speakers on this item. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear from the public.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
He has it.
Are you looking for a cell phone? Oh, it's right here. Yeah. Our first two speakers are Kevin Brown and Jimmy Knott.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. I'm going to take you back about 15 plus years. When I sat on the telecommunications committee along with Bob Ross and a lot of other dignitaries, we brought something like this forward to the council and to also to the city manager at that time. And they looked at us like, huh, what? And at that time, the public didn't know exactly what we were talking about. because the technology wasn't as pervasive and as understood as it is now. We tried to tell them, please take a trip to the airport. Chairman Ross had been around the world with his business, and he saw the other countries around the world having these electronic messaging boards. These other countries who were quite far advanced, more so than our city. And he was a little bit ashamed, shall I say, that we were a little lagging behind in technology here in Oceanside. But at that time, there was not really any support for it. And at that time, too, shortly thereafter, the Telecommunications Committee was disbanded. So there wasn't much that we could do. Part of that proposal that we had was also trying to make it self-supporting. And we even threw out the idea of taking and selling ads to local stores and restaurants so they would pay for the messaging board. And these local restaurants could take and advertise their specials that they would have so that they would support the cost for this. But as things go, things change over time, and there also is a lot of other free speech issues that may be involved with it, unless it's only pure government issues. If it's pure government issues, you don't have to take and worry about other free speech issues because you're just displaying your messages only. I wholeheartedly support this. In fact, we wanted to see this throughout the city and all of our different districts that we have. And I think eventually it's going to come about one way or the other, whether you want it or not. Let's do it right, and let's do it your way. Thank you.
Kevin Brown, Norma Street, Oceanside. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council members, and happy birthday, Mr. Mullen. My comments are based on the assumption this proposal is a full-color digital sign and not the type that's in front of Oceanside High School. The Civic Center Plaza represents the character of Oceanside and is a unique Oceanside architectural area. Blighting the plaza with digital signage is out of character with the plaza and Oceanside in general. Also, a digital sign is not environmentally friendly and does not fit in with a green Oceanside. The purposes as stated for the digital messaging sign seem dubious. There are much better ways to communicate community events, meeting schedules, and public safety messages. The website visitoceanside.org contains all of the events going on in the city and can reach many more people than a digital sign. Amber alerts and other safety messages are already broadcast over cell phones. A sign at Civic Center Plaza would only reach those individuals in the downtown area. Computers and cell phones would seem to be a much better way to communicate in mass without the unnecessary expense of a digital sign and its ongoing programming and maintenance. The issue of digital billboards in Oceanside has previously been debated and rejected by this council and the community. A smaller version of a digital billboard downtown seems contrary to what Oceanside residents want. A digital sign would also set a dangerous precedent for other businesses. If the city can do it, why can't I? This could lead to an on-site digital sign proliferation and/or lawsuits. The city has already been there and done that. I asked the City Council to reject the idea of a digital sign in the plaza. It's not necessary and it's not wanted. And by the way, there's other ways to hang banners. You can use a cherry picker or a portable lift device. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Jane Marshall and Victor Roy.
Good evening, Council. Jane Marshall, resident, volunteer, business person, activist, on and on. I just say no to the digital display panel for the downtown plaza area. I hope that you will consider that. It's not clear. I just heard 4x8 sign. The digital display, I understand, would be easy to update, but yet it could be flashing and obviously a safety concern for drivers. I spoke recently with some folks at Main Street about their kiosks, and it's something that could be used in a similar fashion in the plaza area, not there right at the corner where people take photos of themselves and family and being in Oceanside, but maybe offset. And it would mirror some of the things that they're doing there as well. So if a sign downtown is essential for something, perhaps you could mirror the kiosks that Main Street does, not in a digital way perhaps, but they have calendars that are updated every 6 months. And this is something that the city could do for city-only information, offset from the corner of the plaza, so it doesn't, obstruct any of the beautiful aesthetics that have now, been maintained since we took down the big fence and everything. So I hope that if it is essential, that you'll consider that option rather than just a 4x8 digital panel that is distracting and unsafe. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Victor Roy, Rancho San Luis Rey Oceanside, good evening. Honorable Mayor and City Council and staff. My concern is understanding electronic messaging sign, which is in the item on the agenda, versus a digital messaging sign. And where will it be placed? My understanding right now it's going to be placed on the plaza rather than a building. I brought with me the Article 33 for the City of Oceanside sign ordinance, and I'm reading Section J, the compatibility factors. In determining compatibility of a sign with its surrounding environment, the following criteria may be considered. And really important: style or character of existing improvements upon the site and properties adjacent to the site. Visual elements such as construction materials, physical design details, and the number and spacing of signs in the area. The sign's height, size, location in relation to its proposed location and use. Potential effect of the proposed sign on driver and pedestrian safety. Potential blocking of view, whole or partial, of a structure or facade or public view of natural, historical, or architectural significance. Potential obstruction of views of users of adjacent buildings to side yards, front yards, open space, and parks. Potential negative impact on visual quality of public spaces, including but not limited to recreation facilities, public squares, plazas, courtyards, and the like. And finally, whether the sign structure will impose an aesthetically foreign or inharmonious element into the existing skyline or local viewscape. I think it's critical to examine this issue. There are pros and cons for the issue. For me, we just finished paying off the bond for our Civic Center, beautiful Irving Gill design of the buildings and fountain. $20 million is my understanding. Why do we need a TV on a pole to spoil it all? I think it would be considered blight, and I don't see the public safety messaging as important because we're all getting the Amber Alerts on our cell phones already. So I don't think we need to have that in our Civic Center Plaza. So let's keep it beautiful. Thank you for your time.
Our next two speakers are Lisa Hamilton and Cindy Rocco.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Lisa Hamilton, 323 South Ditmar, Oceanside. In preparing to speak on this article, I looked at two types of signs which are around Oceanside besides the old-fashioned fixed signs. One was the digital crawl type sign at the harbor and at Oceanside High School. Both those signs are approximately 3 by 8 feet. And the harbor sign this afternoon, with the sun behind it, was sufficiently bright that I could read the crawl from across the harbor on the fishing pier. So it was very easy to get that information. The other sign that I looked at was at the approximate entrance of Camp Pendleton. This sign was approximately 8 by 8 feet, and it was so bright that I could easily see it from the I-5 at 60 miles an hour, although I could not read it. What I did notice was that the Pendleton sign took away from noticing anything in the environment. It kind of took over the environment, even at 60 miles an hour. The harbor sign was informative without taking over the environment, which included the canoe garage, shed, building behind it. The difference was the extremely bright LED light and the Pendleton size, not the size. Those signs are not that different in square area. The background for the sign under consideration is the beautiful, peaceful Civic Center Plaza. An LED sign of whatever size is too intrusive. Wrong sign, wrong place. I ask you that you not consider LED signs. These are essentially minor billboards, and we agreed in this council that we weren't going to have digital billboards. But even a small sign would set an unfortunate precedent, because a lot of businesses would also like to have a similar sign. So I ask you to not consider the LED digital type sign and think of something else. The high school and the harbor signs are obviously easy to read. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, council members, Cindy Rocco, I humbly request, I'm going to go a little fast because I have a couple points, humbly request that you deny the motion before you and say no to budgeting for the 4x8 plaza sign. The agenda stated that this budget item would come from, money would come from our capital improvement budget. We have other priorities that the public wants versus the library needs. The pier, the pool are higher priorities under our unfunded capital projects, and then we add insult with a half-cent sales tax initiative. With all due respect, Councilman Kern would not approve the aquatic center, which was one of our unfunded capital projects, because no maintenance budget was done. Meanwhile, we have no official staff report, no schematics, no financial analysis. We don't even know if it meets the downtown sign ordinance, Article 33, yet we're asking for money. Second, what is the intent of the communication mode? Book sales? Also, if this is for non-commercial city announcements, it must meet Article 3315A, government signs, defined as posted on city property, express its own messages to the public. Traffic control, traffic directional signs, other government entities, official notices, about city government functions. So you can't have off-site non-government messages. For example, Main Street, Oceanside could not be advertised on here in their events. The Latino celebrations coming from a club, non-government, also could not be there. It crosses the line of commercial versus non-commercial, and we cannot monetize these ads. When digital signs were voted down by this council, Lowry, Sanchez, and Feller, on city property for off-site ads, we faced a lawsuit by BGT Media. So if we allow non-government messages advertising on for a civic group on city property, it carries the impression of city approval, and we open the door for litigation again. So in light of the money from our capital budget and the potential litigation between commercial and non-commercial, just say no to a fund and to fund a 4x8 TV on a pole. Thank you.
No further public on this item.
Councilmember Kern?
Oh,
I will close since it's our council member item. So Councilmember Sanchez, I think is.
Right. Thank you. It seemed to me, the picture that I was shown did look like a digital billboard. Whatever words you use. I really feel that the Civic Center is so iconic. The fountains are beautiful. City just spent a lot of money in renovating it and letting the water go through. I understand that this initially came up as perhaps an expression that, gee, it would be great to be able to market the programs from the city, especially, for example, the library. And so I did, as a liaison to the Board of Trustees for the library, after a meeting, because it's not actually ever been agendized, apparently, not even before my appointment. I did ask after the meeting, what are your thoughts to the trustees and staff? And the impression that I had was that, the consensus was pretty much no. It's not what they wanted. But there was an interest in marketing the programs. And if that's something that the library wants to do, library staff wants to do, then I would certainly encourage staff to do it within their department. But the things that I thought about too was things that were brought up, which is that whenever I want to have a couple of hours and I want to figure out what's going on in the city, I go to my cell phone or I go to Facebook, either one. And Google, and if it would be so great to come up with a better app for the city, a really cool app that once you enter the city, it suggests to the person, open me because great things inside about Oceanside, right? So I was thinking a really cool app, something to do with maybe the kiosks. I don't know what. But one employee in particular said this, and I'm paraphrasing. She said, this is a walkable community, and that would not fit our walkable community, the idea of a sign. What we need is something that would be more consistent with with walkable community, and basically suggested, let us work this through. So I would like the library department, and I understand that perhaps even the arts department, the arts commission might be interested. Let this go through a regular process, and I don't know, perhaps ask the city manager to suggest that they start talking about it. But in terms of giving direction to staff, I don't feel comfortable doing that because there are still a lot of creative ideas by staff that I'd like them to work on it and follow up on their own. I even had some people say they liked the banners. And the banners that I've seen go up have been with the lift. So I don't know about the ladder. I've never actually seen one go up with a ladder. But certainly I would encourage our staff to do it in the most safe way, to put the banners up. I'd love to hear from staff, during the regular course. So I won't be supporting. I don't even think there's a motion. Or is there a motion? No.
Not yet.
No. Okay. Well, okay. Then if there's no motion, all right.
Okay, now.
It was still green, wasn't it?
Now, this is our councilman.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor
I thought there
Lowry
was a second. I
opened,
apologize.
And so I'm going to close since this is our item together. So hopefully I can make it clear of what brought this about and why I wanted to do this. We're talking about blight. So a 4x8 sign versus 50 feet of banners that blocks the library. What do you think is more blightful? I guess if there's a term of blightful, I don't know if that's a term. 50 feet of banners that weather when they're up there for like 3 weeks and they look kind of ratty by the time they get taken down, or a digital display board. All we are asking for, and I can't tell you what the design is because we haven't designed it, The idea, all we're doing now is setting aside the money in the CIP budget to do this. It was wholeheartedly supported by the Arts Commission, and I promised them that I would bring back whatever design criteria comes up, and the Arts Commission would weigh in on it. Main Street Oceanside is very supportive. I've talked to them today. The Friends of the Library are very supportive. The idea of their annual, or actually 4 times a year book sale, to put that up there. We had an event last week, The Big Read, where the author of Station 11 came in and spoke at the Star Theater. That was a city-sponsored event. That was a library-sponsored event. We have a lot of tourists in town. They don't have the apps, they don't have the cell phones, but they walk downtown. And if they could have walked downtown and see Station 11, author, Star Theater, 6 o'clock, they could have seen that. We didn't have time to make a banner for that. So the idea of having a digital display board, and that's what it is, a digital display board. Now, it may be in color. After all, we're in the 21st century. They may have colors on this digital display board. So we're trying to communicate with the public. We're trying to communicate. We're having more and more tourists come to town, and a 50-foot banner, actually mars the Civic Center Plaza a lot more than a 4x8 sign. So I'm trying to do that. And then, our job is to communicate with the public. And we have a lot more of people that are transient or just come in town for a day, or people that come down and stay at the Wyndham for 2 or 3 weeks. So to have that ability to communicate with them what we would like to, that there's events there, may keep them in town. Instead of, hey, going out to Carlsbad in the evening for dinner, wait a second, the author's speaking in Oceanside, maybe they'll stay in town and go to dinner, then go to and listen to the author speak about Station 11. So, talk about blocking a view, 50 feet of banner. The last time we had 3 banners thrown across palm trees. To me, and it's just personal because aesthetics, that's pretty tacky to have just banners hanging from palm trees. So all we're doing tonight, we're not approving a design, we're not approving anything other than this, and we're directing staff to set aside money to look at this, and we're going to take it back to the appropriate committees to come up with a design and what they think of it. Obviously, the Arts Commission would weigh in heavily, the Library Board would weigh in heavily, and I have a different impression of the Councilmember Sanchez, because I talked to the library people and they're in favor of it. So the idea of bringing this forward for those events and city-sponsored events, I think is a good idea. So I'm going to move, and here's the motion, that we set aside money in the CIP budget for a digital display board, and then we send it back to staff, as Councilmember Sanchez directed, and we send it back to our appropriate committees to come up with a design. And that's where we're at now. We haven't come up with the final design, but I think we ought to get the ball rolling. I don't think those banners up there aren't attractive for the plaza. So anyway, that's my motion. If I can get a second, and then we'll move on.
Councilmember Feller?
How much money are we asking to set aside?
About 50.
Honorable Mayor, council members, I think it'll probably a little bit more than that. I think closer to probably 85 easily. Remember, we have to do an RFP for design and for CEQA. It will likely take a local coastal plan as permit as well because of the location. So it'll be a little more costly.
That's almost a month's operational for the swimming pool.
Dies.
Motion dies for lack of second.
All right, move on.
With that, we will adjourn to a Mayor Council workshop at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, April 18th regarding next year's budget.
Well.